Deep in the Brazilian countryside lies a village called São Benedito do Mato. The houses are decrepit, streets deserted. Only 17 souls remain. Everyone else fled. They fled from him. The one-legged boy who appears every night at 3 a.m. when the veil between worlds grows thin. Local legend speaks of the Saci not as a mere trickster spirit, but as something far more sinister. He was once a real child, born into slavery, who endured unimaginable torment. His master severed his leg as punishment and left him to bleed out in the forest. But death itself rejected him that night. Under a blood-red moon, the dying boy made a pact with ancient forces that dwelled in the forest's darkness. He traded his humanity for power. Power to never be weak again. Power to inflict his agony upon others. When he awoke, he was no longer human. He was Saci, and his vengeance would span eternity. His presence always announces itself the same way. The smell of pipe smoke mixed with sulfur, thick enough to choke on. Then comes the piercing whistle that makes eardrums bleed. People lock their doors, pray in hushed voices, but nothing works. When Saci chooses you, there is no escape from your fate. Dona Maria was the first recent victim. She woke to the sound of children's laughter echoing through her home. When she turned on the lights, she saw tiny bloody footprints on the floor. A single print, repeated over and over, forming a perfect circle around her bed. In the center lay a blood-soaked red cap. Saci doesn't kill immediately. He enjoys the game too much. Dona Maria began hearing his voice everywhere. A sweet child's voice that whispered her darkest secrets, things she'd buried deep in her subconscious. Sins she didn't remember committing crawled up from her memory like maggots from a corpse. On the second night, objects in her house began moving by themselves. Knives floated through the air, their blades catching moonlight. Mirrors showed reflections of mutilated children. The walls began bleeding a thick, black substance. And always that laughter, echoing from every corner, filled with concentrated pain and hatred. On the third night, Dona Maria finally saw him. A young black boy, maybe 10 years old, hopping on one leg. His eyes glowed completely red, no pupils, no humanity. His mouth stretched into an impossibly wide grin, revealing teeth sharp as needles. That red cap dripped something dark and viscous down his face. "Want to play with me?" he asked, his voice distorted and layered, as if multiple children spoke at once. Dona Maria couldn't move, paralyzed by pure terror. Saci began spinning faster and faster until he became a crimson and black whirlwind. The vortex swallowed her whole, and she vanished forever into his nightmare realm. When they found Dona Maria's house, it was completely empty. Only a single bloody footprint remained in the center of the living room, and a message written in blood on the wall, 16. Saci had begun his countdown. He wouldn't stop until everyone in the village paid for sins they didn't even know they carried. The village priest, Father Vicente, decided to investigate the disappearances. In the church basement, he discovered ancient documents revealing a horrifying truth. São Benedito do Mato was built directly over an old slave burial ground, and the boy who became Saci was buried alive there, his screams ignored. More terrifying still, the 17 remaining residents were all direct descendants of the slave master who tortured that boy. Saci hadn't chosen random victims. He came to collect a blood debt that spanned generations. Each of them carried their ancestors' sin in their very DNA, and now payment was due. Father Vicente attempted an exorcism, but when he began to pray, Saci materialized before him. "You think your God can stop me, priest? I was abandoned by God, forgotten by your saints. My pain is older than your prayers, deeper than your faith." Then he tore out the priest's tongue, leaving him alive to witness. One by one, families disappeared without trace. Some were found days later, completely insane, repeating only, "He wants us to feel it. He wants us to know." Their bodies were physically intact, but their minds had been shattered beyond repair. They lived trapped in eternal nightmares crafted specifically by Saci. The last family tried to flee by car during daylight, thinking they'd be safe under the sun's protection. But Saci created a massive whirlwind in the middle of the road. The car was sucked into the vortex. When the whirlwind vanished, the car remained, perfectly intact. but inside there was no one, only 17 bloody red caps. Today, São Benedito do Mato is a ghost town, officially restricted by government order. Anyone who attempts to enter disappears without a trace, but on blood moon nights, residents of neighboring towns swear they hear children's laughter carried on the wind from that direction. Some find bloody footprints on their doorsteps at dawn. They say Saci is still there, patiently waiting in his cursed domain, waiting for someone foolish enough to trespass, because his revenge is far from over. It will never be over. He has all of eternity to make every descendant of that cursed bloodline pay their ancestral debt, and he is infinitely patient. If you ever smell smoke and sulfur without source, if you hear a shrill whistle at 3 a.m., if you find a bloody footprint in your home, know this: Saci is coming for you. And when he chooses you, the only mercy left is to pray death comes quickly. Because what he does to your mind is far worse than anything he could do to your body.